And we welcome on the line Vinai, who is in Heidelberg.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for having me. Sorry I can't be there today. Just came out of a bout of COVID and still a little not quite back to full form. So I decided to do this remotely. I hope to be in this pretty cool room. I can just see the view on Teams. It looks awesome. So that's great. Also, I hope the whole syncing to the Hyvä meetup is working. That should be happening right now. But I'll just trust that this works. Okay.
Everything
so
okay? Ready to go?
From my side, yeah, I guess, but we'll see. I mean,
yeah, everything is fun.
We have your video checking audio. All right, that looks good. Okay, cool. Well, first, I would like to say I really appreciate the opportunity to speak here, speaking about Hyvä. Quick show of hands, who's familiar with what Hyvä is? Maybe. Okay. Oh, nice. Very good. Thank you.
Everyone here in the room.
Sorry?
Everyone here in the room.
Oh, all right. All right, cool. So then let's jump right in. So let me share the screen here. That's not what I wanted to talk about. Writing documentation. So, okay. Oh no, that's also not what I wanted to talk about. This is what I wanted to talk about. That's better. All right, so. Cool. So what I'm going to talk about is what's on the roadmap. Actually, let me just move Teams over to the other screen so I can see a bit what's happening. That way I feel much more connected. Yeah, that's better. Okay. Okay, so unless somebody says something, I'll just assume you can see what I'm seeing. Anyway, Hyvä, much more than a theme. It's actually, as you know, the theme, we have the whole tooling around it that we're continuing to build out. Also the whole community, mainly in the Slack community, but it's starting to kind of manifest in the real world too. So through meetups like this one, I guess, even though I'm not there in person right now, but also we were at Meet Magento UK, for example, or we had the Hyvä camp, which was a lot of fun and pretty nice. So it's really a lot of fun. And for me personally, the community is really an essential part of what makes Hyvä what it is, right? Actually, the whole ecosystem, right? All the people working with it, supporting it in different ways, like Peter Jaap with testing, all the contributions that are coming in. It's it's really quite something. So that's Hyvä. For me, it's like the one missing piece to what made Magento really an epic platform to work with. So the main focus of everything that we do is e-commerce made happy, which includes developer happiness, which is why I love my job pretty much, right? So we focus on making people happy, and my job specifically making developers happy. So during the last 12 months or so, since Hyvä was released, it was released about 1.5 years ago now, but it's been about a year that I started working with Hyvä as part of Hyvä. And since then, a lot has happened actually, right? So we introduced many tools that can be used by developers if they want to, like sliders for products or for anything pretty much, and modals and confirmation dialogues. So little things that just make the life as a developer easier. We have a backported X-intersect plugin to Alpine, which makes it possible to very easily trigger actions when something scrolls out of the viewport or into the viewport, things like that. Added new helper methods. We added just recently advanced form validation library that was contributed by Macropedia. And So that's pretty neat. I'm personally pretty excited about it because it's something I was missing earlier. And most recent change, I think, was that we added the feature that allows merging Tailwind configuration and CSS from within modules, merging that into the Tailwind CSS configuration while a theme styles are being generated. So this makes it truly modular. So now after installing a module that's compatible with Hyvä, it's no longer necessary to adjust the content path or the purge path or something, and it just works automatically, right? And so all these things make it just a bit easier, less things that are able to forget, less of a time sink, and make it easier to things just work. And we'll continue to build on this. So the next step would be, for example, allowing an automatic merging of templates files from parent themes if the template files aren't overridden in the current theme, right? So that will make it easier to work with hierarchies of Hyvä themes with the Magento fallback. We use a lot of view models, so PHP view models. Well, we recently introduced a PHP card as a second card page implementation. We have a lot of documentation that we are continuously adding to, and we have a lot of compatible modules. It's actually more than 140. It's more like 100 almost 80 now, because we have a lot of vendors now that support Hyvä for many of their modules out of the box, which is very nice. So a lot already has happened, and the reason why I wanted to pick this up was I've discovered that when I talk with developers who looked at Hyvä maybe a year ago, maybe did a project or so, many people aren't aware of all the things that have happened since then, right? So, just to give you an idea, like, okay, stuff is moving and a lot is happening actually. So if there's something there that you aren't familiar with yet, have a look at it. It's all documented. So let's look at the roadmap. What's coming up? So right now, I'm working on setting up continuous integration for our GitLab repositories. This is something that I've been wanting to do right from the beginning, but we always have to make choices what to work on first. No, right? I can't do everything at once. So I'm pretty excited about it, finally taking the time to set this up, and I believe this will be a big step in regards to, well, professionalism, let's put it that way, avoiding regressions, etc., pp. And that will include simple things like coding standards that will automatically be also applied to any compatibility models and such. But of course, also all the PHP unit-based tests and also the Cypress tests that Peter so generously open sourced PDUp. So that's something that's currently being built. And yeah, that should be out relatively soon. And the reason why I chose to build this right now is, well, of course, I've been wanting to do that for a long time, but I'll jump over one point here. So what I'm actually working on right now is the update of Alpine.js and Tailwind CSS to version 3. I'll talk a bit more about that later. Now, unfortunately, the version 3 of these two libraries that Hyvä depends on contains some backward incompatible changes. So that's why this will be Hyvä 1.2. And having continuous integration in place will make it a lot easier to actually do this, right? It'll save time pretty quickly. So that's why I thought, okay, I'll first set up CI and then I'll do the update. And what we'll do is we'll provide some tooling that will hopefully automate the process as much as possible to update a theme to Alpine and Tailwind version 3. And after this, the next thing, which I've also started working on together with many others in the community here, but I really want to focus on that, will be improved Adobe Commerce feature coverage. Currently, we started the effort, we've got some things in place, but there's still quite a bit of work to be done there. That also includes not specifically Adobe Commerce features, but features that are available there, like live search and product recommendations, and other features that are one of these Adobe services. So they work with Hyvä out of the box there. Interestingly enough, we're working with people from Adobe on supporting some of these features, like product recommendations and such. So yeah, that's very promising and very nice. Also, of course, a lot of the work to support these features already was done as a part of our Hyvä community, which I'm very grateful for too. So these are things that I think are mostly interesting for developers, maybe, right? But there's also some things coming up which are probably interesting from a more business perspective. So the next, we're going to release a couple of new products. First of all, the Hyvä Mage-OS checkout will be coming up, and Willem Portman will be giving a talk at the Hyvä meetup too. That's also going to be recorded. Maybe you already saw one. Maybe you saw one at the Hyvä camp. So anyway, that's coming up very soon, and that's a product that we're building with in partnership with One Step Checkout, because One Step Checkout has so much experience in regards to checkout and checkout customizations. Specifically with Magento, but actually all over. So anything e-commerce checkout related, they've got a huge amount of domain knowledge. So we are very happy that we are able to work with them on this new product. So that is a joint venture, and that will be released very soon. And what that is, it's a checkout. So if you're not familiar with it, it's a checkout that's based on MageWire, which is a port of Laravel Livewire into Magento, also built by Willem Portman. And the idea is to have a checkout that's highly interactive, modals, all the stuff that happens on the front end. But the main focus is that it's really easy to work with for PHP developers. Right? This whole idea of building stuff in the back end, and it's kind of like magic, That's why it's called MageWire, I guess, right? So all the stuff happens on the front end. It's really cool. I'm really looking forward to that being out there, and that will be coming soon. The next product that we're building is the Hyvä UI library. We've been working on that with one of our employees for a good 6 months now. And the first things that we released like in January or so, I think, were a couple of mega menus. And the idea here is that we have a library of PHTML components that can simply be used pretty much like Tailwind UI, if you're familiar with it. So they're copy and paste files that can be dropped into a theme, and they just work. The benefit over something like Tailwind UI is that they're already prepared for Magento. So if I take a Tailwind UI component, I still have to put in the logic that it renders whatever data Magento supplies, right? It's just like a dummy. But these actually already work out of the box. So that will make working and building themes even faster. And we put a lot of emphasis on making sure that they're really easy to use and very customizable and versatile. And some of them will be PHTML templates. Some of them will be snippets that are intended to be used through the Magento admin to make it easier for merchants to provide content that looks good and fits into a page. And they also would be very easily integrated. It should be possible to integrate them into the next thing that I want to come to here, which are Hyvä widgets. So Hyvä widgets is a contribution by our partner agency at B. Meyer that got into Hyvä. So thanks again there. And it's basically a set of Magento widgets, which are still highly underused, we find. And we'll continue to improve this. So some of the people in the Magento ecosystem have built a lot of improvements and have offered to contribute them back. So we'll take those and pick the ones that make the most sense and work them into the code base. So yeah, that's going to be even more and more useful. Now, to be fair, when I first heard about the idea of adding in widgets, I wasn't very excited about it, right? Willem Wichman, actually, he immediately got it. But I was like, well, I don't know, I've got Page Builder and alternative third-party CMS systems. But it turns out widgets are actually extremely good. So a bunch of people that I've talked to, well, 2 or 3, were working with Page Builder mainly, and have started using widgets more and more, because widgets can provide those kind of constraints that Page Builder doesn't often. So it's too easy to break stuff in Page Builder for, depends on the project, I guess. And building custom content types in Page Builder is quite a lot of work. So widgets provide a nice middle ground there. And yeah, I'm looking forward to improving that and making that even better. And finally, one thing that I want to announce, this is probably the first time I'm mentioning this in any kind of talk or such, would be that we're going to create a certification program, because there's so much there already. And I think by providing a certification for developers with Hyvä, what it does is it allows companies to show their specialization. Right? I don't think it's really the most meaningful metric for individual developers, which doesn't mean, I'm not saying that it doesn't make sense at all, because I, myself included, really have used certifications as like a motivation to study on specific topic and learn about things. And that works for many people, I find. And also it's a common way to integrate something in a career path. But yeah, I think that this will lift Hyvä onto the whole ecosystem, onto, again, a whole new level of professionalism. And yeah, that's something that's hopefully coming this year still. So these things are probably something that's maybe a bit more interesting from the business side, and of course developers too. But yeah, that's the next thing that we've got planned. One of the key features of Hyvä is, for me, that it really is this focus on helping developers to get the job done. And that's what I like calling simplicity. So for me, if possible, it should be possible to do something using just a single file, right? I don't want to create 12 files to add a checkbox somewhere. It should be one file and everything's in there. So that kind of fits nicely with the whole Hyvä philosophy of I've got a template file, and I've got the Tailwind themes in there, I've got the JavaScript in there, I've got the DOM in there. And of course, sometimes I need maybe a backend class or a PHP view model, but this is basically the goal. I want to make it as simple as possible to get the job done as quickly as possible. And maybe I should close this here. No, not right now. Okay. It's a bit blinding, the light, but I should be okay. Anyway, so this focus on simplicity is something that also applies to all the new features that we're building. And the second thing is reliability. So we really want to not waste people's time, right? We want to enable people to use their time as well as possible. So for us, that means if we build something and release it as stable, we want to keep that working, ideally forever. So anything we do, we try to provide an upgrade path that is as little work as possible, and we keep our things backward compatible as long as we can. So far, everything has worked well in that regard. Now with the changes in the upstream libraries for Alpine and Tailwind CSS, we're forced to kind of incorporate those, so that will be some backward incompatible changes, but we're trying to make the upgrade as easy as possible. So we really strive for reliability, that you can build something with Hyvä and it will continue to work. One example here would be that the first card page that was in Hyvä was built on GraphQL and Alpine.js. And it turned out that it was kind of a pain point for many of the users. Not all, some people liked it a lot actually, but the problem is it's very different from core Magento, Luma. And GraphQL that takes time to learn and is more complex, but even for people who are familiar with GraphQL, issue was that there are some inconsistencies between the GraphQL API result sets and what's actually being rendered if you use the quote model or the checkout cart session or whatever in PHP. Total models, total titles, small differences, but these kind of inconsistencies between the different let's say views on Magento, GraphQL API, PHP API, just made it more work than it should be. Also, third-party extensions vendors trying to support the same features that they originally had built for the Luma cart. Well, it just took a lot more work building the same features again for Hyvä using GraphQL. So we decided to change that, and we built this PHP cart. Now, the PHP cart uses all the standard cart item renderers, for example, right? And so custom product types work out of the box a lot more easier. And making customizations work with the PHP cart is a lot less work, takes a lot less time compared to the GraphQL cart. So, but the GraphQL cart already is out there and being used in many projects, and there are many compatibility modules. So we didn't want to break backward compatibility here. So at the same time, we thought we want to make the new PHP cart the default. So new projects are encouraged to use that because we think it saves work. So what we did was we moved the GraphQL cart into an extension, and we will continue to support that. And if the extension is installed, the GraphQL cart is active, and indeed it can be configured to be active for individual store views only. So then it's possible to switch between GraphQL cart and the PHP cart for different store views or websites. And we also ensured that it's possible to write compatibility modules. So modules that support both carts at the same time, that there's not a conflict, right? So no shared template file names and block names and these things. And we try to make it as easy to make that as possible. Yeah, so that's one example for how we focus on reliability. So going forward, we will continue to support both carts, and we will hopefully help all the extension vendors to also support both carts and the compatibility modules going forward. So that will, of course, take time, I guess. But I built a few compatibility into a few modules that use the cart page, and it was pretty fast supporting the PHP cart in addition to the existing support for the GraphQL cart. So yeah, that was pretty good. Okay, yeah, this goes into the same vein as yeah, the whole idea of reliability. Many of the other front ends that are updated a lot, they break backward compatibility a lot, and they struggle to keep up with the fast-moving JavaScript frameworks. So just today, I think a new JavaScript runtime was added, and it moves extremely fast, and we really try to offer stability here, right? So, for example, currently we still are on Alpine 2.8, so that's current version 2 of Alpine. Even though Alpine 3 was released almost a year ago. And this actually has a lot of benefits because Alpine 2 is very reliable, right? It's performant, it works well, and not breaking things is more important to us than chasing the shiny new things. So if we upgrade too soon, it will just introduce a lot of disruption into running projects. Trying to build a project while also updating the underlying framework is painful. At least that was my experience. So we want to take a much more considerate approach. We don't mind using something for, like we do in this case, for a year here, and then we really want to focus on making the upgrade as simple as possible by, probably a bunch of scripts that you can run that will replace or refactor the code as much as possible. So least amount of friction and frustration here. least amount of time spent on upgrades, which of course saves a lot of money for the merchant end. So yeah, Peter Jaap, nice quote from him. So we launched our first store 1.5 years ago. They were one of the very first to start writing using Hyvä, and they kept it up to date. And so far, it never broke. So lovely quote there, I like it a lot. And we strive to keep it that way, right? We really want to make things work well there. Okay, so that's all that I've got. That's what we've currently got planned. We've got a lot more ideas, but that's all that we've committed to for this year. In addition, of course, to further documentation updates, quality releases, etc. pp. And that also includes, of course, contributions by our lovely community. So if there's a pull request somewhere, we will be very happy to include those too into the core of Hyvä. So probably there's still a few minutes time. Any questions?
So first of all, thank you very much, Vinai, for this presentation. Highly appreciated that you are able to join us online. Maybe I will start with a quick question, but feel free to also ask your questions here or in the chat. I have a question. You mentioned that you are in discussion with Adobe guys about Adobe Commerce features. Can you share some feedback of the Adobe guys? What do they think about Hyvä and the whole community and the product? Can you share some thoughts?
Yeah.
How do you feel like about it?
Yeah, of course. So I think there's not one clear message there, right? I think they very appreciate the rejuvenation of the Magento community that was triggered by Hyvä, all the positivity that what got injected into the whole ecosystem. So that's great. A lot of people have actually said that the reason they decided to continue working with Magento is because of Hyvä and everything around it. So that's really nice. And a lot of people inside of Adobe feel the same way, right? They love the Magento ecosystem and everything about it. So they also appreciate this a lot. And it also, I mean, you know, they've got their own roadmap, especially in regards to PWA Studio and things, and who knows what else they're building. I don't know. So not everybody thinks that Hyvä is the only best way forward, like I do, right? And that's totally fair. People have different priorities, prefer different approaches, and everything. So that's cool. I would say all over it's positive. So right now the idea is to use some of their new APIs that they're building for their new services. And they really want to make them as developer friendly as possible. So they thought, hey, why don't we maybe ask some people from Hyvä to check their thoughts on it, right? So and work with them. And yeah, so that's something that I'm looking forward a lot. Next week they have the summer, I don't know, like the whole company, everybody's on vacation for a week, so that nothing will be happening there. But hopefully the process will continue the week after, and we can. You know, so I'm in direct contact with developers from Adobe there. So I think all in all, probably a bit of a mixed feelings depending on whom you talk to, but in general, very positive. It's been a very constructive relationship with Adobe, I feel, in both ways.
That's fantastic. So Sonia just posted a ton of questions. I will try.
Okay.
Read them, but raise your hand if you also have questions here in the room. So I will try to. Sorry, I'm not fast enough.
I can see the questions in the chat, I think, so yeah. I can read them there. But if somebody has a question in the room, I'm happy to take that first too.
Okay.
Yeah, I would be curious about the project that you would recommend Hyvä for. Would you say it also fits really huge, complex projects, or does it take too long to whatever cover not existing features? Or would you recommend it more for smaller, easier projects?
You mean like, for example, B2B features and such?
Yeah, for example.
Yeah. So we have a bunch of B2B Adobe Commerce B2B sites running on Hyvä. It certainly is work to make them compatible. After we worked on the Adobe Commerce feature coverage, the next step will be also working on B2B feature coverage, right? No ETA there though, right? So one step after the other. We can't do all at once. It really depends. So the existing B2B sites, I've seen 3 that I can recall right now. They only used a subset of all the Magento Adobe Commerce B2B features. So, of course, there's also still work to make those compatible, but by just supporting the features that are actually used or needed, well, yeah, that makes it much more feasible. So there's no easy answer, right? I think given the sites that exist, there isn't a real limit. It depends on the budget and the individual project. In theory, it's suitable for any complexity of builds that Magento supports. We can use Hyvä with it, or that Adobe Commerce supports.
Okay.
Is that okay as an answer?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, cool. All right.
I have a question. As a frontend developer, I totally expect the Tailwind version 3. Can you give the time box when it will be available in your version 1.2?
Yeah, sure. So we're not giving out dates. So we're not promising dates. That's one of our company policies. Of course, internally we do speak about dates, but I can't give you by this date we'll have it released. So all I can say is I'm working on that right now in the context of setting up CI. Okay. I hope that's good enough. So I really want to get it out of the door very quickly because a lot of people want it. All right. Okay. Good question. Fair.
So I also would like to ask, so a lot of companies are actually using AEM, Adobe Experience Management, as a content repository. And they have some kind of an integration with PWA Studio, I think, where they offer, I think it's called rich component or something, which you can pass directly to that headless integration. So could something similar work with Hyvä as well? Or
yeah, well, to be fair, I've never worked with AEM. I know people who are working on it, and I know of projects that are using AEM and they still want to use Hyvä for their commerce sites because not everybody needs AEM level for a small merch site or something, right? So it really depends. That's all I can say about it. Unfortunately, again, I don't have experience myself how that would look like technology-wise. I mean, as a developer, my gut feeling is everything is possible, but it's always the details. So I don't know how much work it would be. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Maybe I can take some questions from the chat. So
first question there.
The first question would be that I can see is, will there also be a course certificate for solution specialist? I have no idea about that at the moment. If there's a need, sure, but let's do one thing after each other. So the first thing definitely will be a developer certificate. Yeah, I mean, if that's a good idea, sure. I don't know. Secondly, second question, is the B stuff also covered?
That will be covered by Willem. So you can move on to Thomas' question. Any status update for Hyvä admin forms?
Oh, okay. Damn, yeah. That's something that's actually that I would really love to finish. No status update though. That's a quick answer. I'd love to do that, but I can't.
And then
yeah, okay. As you can see, Willem answered some questions there. Question 4, I like the future for Hyvä admin as it seems to be quite stagnant. Yeah, that's a fair question and observation. It is stagnant. The problem is time, right? I really think it's something. Okay, so before I was part of Hyvä, I was writing a lot more production code for projects. So I needed Hyvä admin. That's why I built it originally, right? It's scratching my own itch. Now I'm part of Hyvä, so I'm writing other kind of code. I don't need to build backend forms as much anymore, or pretty much much at all. I still want to finish it though, because I remember how much I hated building them with the core Magento stuff. So yeah, I really want to get back and do it. It's not dead. I haven't abandoned it. It's just a matter of time, and then stuff happens like, okay, I was out for 3 or 4 weeks because of COVID, and that doesn't help either on no front. So yeah, that's all I can say about that. It's not dead. I want to get back to it, but I have to find the time. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have another question regarding Alpine.js. Did you experience with growing when you start a project and everything is super fast? And did you experience any performance impact that it got slower by time because of all the features that the customer wanted to be implemented, and then
Yeah, sure.
Stay the fast, or does it also depend on whatever the developers, if they are good or make,
Yeah, you're spot on there, absolutely. So Alpine, of course, doesn't magically make a website faster. It really depends a bit on how it's used. It's still possible to write render blocking code, lots of it. It's possible to create a ball of mud. It really depends on something. It's possible to render megabytes of DOM content, even though it's hidden. So quite often I think if some very complex functionality is being built for a page with Alpine, just like pretty much any kind of JavaScript, what happens is the page gets slower or less responsive in terms of interactive. And then we have to take steps to mitigate, right? To make it faster again, to make it more interactive again, and to make it render quicker. And that's of course possible. So there are a number of typical solutions for some of these problems, at least. I mean, nothing fits all problems, but using a template with XIF to exclude parts of the DOM so the browser doesn't really care about them can make things a lot quicker instead of just hiding things with XShow, for example. That's like one of the classic approaches if you're rendering, for example, a huge menu and don't need all of it being displayed at the same time. And then with template, just injecting those parts of the DOM that are actually being visible, so the browser only sees those, can make it quicker. But yeah, I don't know. It really depends on how it's possible, on the specific use case, maybe. Yeah. Okay, answer?
Yeah, okay.
I just see one more question here. Is there a public roadmap of individual features on GitHub so you can see the progress? No, at the moment there isn't. Yeah, I mean, it's a good idea. Maybe we should, but the problem is if we publish a roadmap without dates, it's kind of, people won't be satisfied either. Right, so, yeah.
Okay, I'm not sure when you have to switch over for the Hyvä Stammtisch meetup.
Yeah, sure.
But I highly appreciate your time. And thanks for joining us here, the audience, both here on site and also online. Well, it was a pleasure having you, and hope to see you soon.
Hope to see you all in person soon too. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.